You're not poor because you don't make enough money. You're poor because the system is designed to keep you that way. And the worst part is you probably don't even see it happening. Most people walk around thinking they're making rational financial decisions when they're actually trapped in an invisible prison that's been carefully constructed around them since childhood. The bars aren't made of steel, they're made of payments, subscriptions, lifestyle expectations, and the constant whisper that you deserve things you can't actually afford. And I've spent years studying how money actually works versus how we're told it works. And the gap between those two things is where most people lose their entire lives. Let me show you something that'll make your blood run cold. The average American will earn over $2 million in their lifetime. $2 million flowing through their hands over 40 years of work. Yet somehow, most of them will retire with less than 100,000 saved. Where did the other 1,900,000 go? It didn't disappear into necessities, it evaporated into 1,000 tiny leaks that nobody taught them to see, let alone fix. The first trap is so obvious that it's invisible. You think you're buying things, but you're actually buying monthly payments. Sorry, nobody walks into a car dealership asking how much the car costs anymore. They ask what the monthly payment is. That's not an accident. The entire consumer economy has been restructured around this one psychological trick because it completely bypasses your brain's ability to assess real cost. When you see a $300 monthly payment, your brain doesn't multiply that by 60 months. It doesn't calculate the interest. It just compares 300 to your monthly income and thinks, yeah, I can swing that. Meanwhile, you just agreed to pay $30,000 for a car worth $22,000, and you'll still owe money on it when it's worth $12,000, but hey, the payment fit your budget. This is why car dealerships have financing departments that are more profitable than their actual car sales. They're not in the business of selling you vehicles, they're in the business of selling you payment plans that keep you locked in place for years. And the beautiful part, from their perspective, is that by the time you're almost done paying off the car, it's old enough that you're ready to trade it in and start the whole cycle over again. The second trap is lifestyle inflation, and it's probably already got you. Here's how it works. You get a raise at work. Maybe you're now making $5,000 more per year. That's real money. Yeah, that could be invested. That could change your trajectory, but within 3 months of that raise, your spending has mysteriously increased to match it. You upgraded your apartment. You started eating out more often. You bought a few things you'd been putting off, and somehow, even though you're making more money than ever, you're not actually getting ahead. This happens because we're wired to compare ourselves to the people around us. And as your income increases, you unconsciously start comparing yourself to people who make more than you used to. The lifestyle that felt like a luxury when you were making 40,000 suddenly feels like the baseline when you're making 50. You're not being greedy or irresponsible. You're being human. But that very human tendency is precisely what keeps the trap locked. I watched this happen to a friend who went from making 60,000 to making 90,000 in one promotion. Huge jump, right? Within a year, he'd moved to a nicer place, bought a newer car, and started taking more expensive vacations. His actual savings rate didn't budge, and he was just living a more expensive version of the same paycheck-to-paycheck existence, and the prison got bigger, but it was still a prison. Now here's where it gets really insidious. The system is specifically designed to make you feel broke no matter how much you earn. There's always another tier just above you dangling right in front of your face. You're making 50,000 and you think, if I just made 70, I'd be comfortable. Then you make 70 and realize that 90 is where real comfort starts. Hit 90 and suddenly you're eyeing 6 figures, make 6 figures, and you're comparing yourself to people making 200,000. This ladder has no top. I know people making $300,000 a year who feel financially stressed, not because they are, but because they've inflated their lifestyle to match their income, and they're surrounded by people making 500,000. The goalpost moves every single time you get close to it. The third trap is the one that really makes me angry because it's completely unnecessary. It's the ignorance tax, and you're paying it every single day without realizing it. This is the premium you pay for not understanding how money actually works. Bank fees because you didn't maintain the minimum balance. Overdraft charges because you didn't track your spending. Credit card interest because you carried a balance. Late fees because you forgot a payment. Insurance costs because you didn't shop around. Investment fees because you didn't know there were cheaper options. These aren't small amounts. The average American pays over $1,000 per year in unnecessary bank and credit card fees alone. That's not counting the opportunity cost of carrying credit card debt at 19% interest when they could be investing that money at 10% returns. Over a lifetime, the ignorance tax easily exceeds $100,000. Money that could have set you free instead went to banks and credit card companies because nobody taught you the rules of the game. What makes this particularly brutal is that the people who can least afford these fees are the ones paying them most frequently. The person living paycheck to paycheck gets hit with overdraft fees. The person with bad credit pays higher interest rates. The person without savings pays predatory payday loan rates. Poverty is expensive, and the system is designed to keep it that way. But here's what nobody talks about. These traps don't work in isolation. They work together, creating a compound effect that's almost impossible to escape once you're caught in it. The monthly payment trap reduces your cash flow. The lifestyle inflation trap ensures you never build savings. The ignorance tax drains whatever's left. And all three together create a situation where you're working harder every year just to stay in the same place. The really twisted part is coming up, and it's going to make you question every financial decision you've ever made. You see, the system needs you trapped, not in some conspiracy theory way, but in a very practical economic sense. The entire economy is built on consumer spending. If everyone suddenly started saving 20% of their income and living below their means, we'd have an economic crisis. Retail would collapse, auto sales would plummet, the housing market would crater. So there's this massive infrastructure designed to keep money flowing out of your pocket as quickly as it flows in. Advertising that makes you feel inadequate without the latest products. Social media that turns spending into performance art. Easy credit that lets you buy now and regret later. Even the way stores are designed, with impulse purchases at checkout and loss leaders in the back, is engineered to extract maximum cash from your wallet. But the real genius is making you believe it's your fault when you can't get ahead. You're not disciplined enough, you're not working hard enough, you should have studied something more lucrative. Meanwhile, the game is rigged from the start, and discipline alone won't save you when every force in the economy is pulling your money away. Here's something that'll make you reconsider everything. The average American will earn over $2 million in their lifetime. Some will earn $3 or $4 million, yet somehow most people retire with less than $100,000 saved. Where did those millions go? They went to monthly payments on depreciating assets. They went to lifestyle inflation every time income increased. They went to the ignorance tax because nobody taught financial literacy in school. Millions of dollars gone. Not stolen, exactly. I say more like slowly siphoned away through 1,000 small decisions that seemed reasonable at the time. Each individual choice felt manageable. Finance the car, it's only $400 a month. Upgrade the apartment, it's just $200 more. Get the premium cable package, what's another $50? But those small decisions compound just like investment returns do, except in reverse. That $400 car payment over 6 years is $28,000 plus the opportunity cost of what that money could have earned if invested. Do that twice in your lifetime, and you've spent enough to retire a year earlier. The apartment upgrade costs an extra $2,400 per year. Over 20 years, that's $48,000. Add in the investment returns you missed, and you're looking at over $100,000. The premium cable package seems trivial until you realize it's $600 annually. 40 years of that is $24,000 or closer to $70,000 with lost investment growth. 3 decisions, 3 seemingly insignificant choices. Together, they cost you $250,000 in retirement wealth, and we haven't even touched dining out, new phones every 2 years, or that gym membership you use twice. This is why the first 100,000 is so crucial and so difficult. You're not just building wealth. You're fighting against every systemic force designed to prevent you from building wealth. You're swimming upstream in a river specifically engineered to push you backwards. Most people never make it because they don't realize they're in a fight. Now, let's talk about the psychological warfare being waged on your bank account, because this is where it gets properly disturbing. Every major corporation has teams of psychologists figuring out how to separate you from your money. They study your brain chemistry, they understand your emotional triggers, they know exactly how to make you feel like you need something you don't. Take phone upgrades. Your current phone works perfectly fine, but they've created this annual ritual where not upgrading feels like falling behind. They've turned a functional tool into a status symbol and then obsoleted that status every 12 months. It's brilliant and completely predatory. Or consider how streaming services work now. Used to be you'd cancel cable and save money with Netflix. Now you need Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and whatever else launched this week. Individually, they seem cheap. Collectively, they cost more than cable did, but they got you by making each decision feel small and independent. The fitness industry runs the same playbook. They sell you annual memberships in January when your motivation peaks, knowing most people quit by February. They're not selling fitness. They're selling the feeling of being the kind of person who goes to the gym. The actual gym attendance is almost irrelevant to their business model. Food delivery apps are maybe the most insidious example. They've gamified spending money on overpriced restaurant food, rewards programs, free delivery thresholds, limited time offers. They've taken an occasional convenience and turned it into a daily habit that costs you thousands annually. What's really happening is they're hacking your dopamine system. Every purchase triggers a small reward response in your brain. They've optimized their entire experience around maximizing that hit while minimizing the pain of payment. One-click checkout, saved payment methods, subscriptions that auto-renew, all designed to disconnect the pleasure of acquisition from the pain of spending. And it works. Holy hell does it work. The average person makes dozens of micro-purchases weekly without even registering them as real spending. $5 here, $8 there, $15 for this, $20 for that. Individually insignificant, collectively devastating. I tracked my own spending obsessively for 3 months once, and I was shocked by how much leaked through these tiny holes. Coffee shop visits I didn't remember, app purchases I never used, convenience store stops that added up to hundreds monthly, death by 1,000 small transactions. But the absolute worst part, the thing that makes this whole system nearly impossible to escape, is that opting out makes you weird. Save aggressively and people think something's wrong with you. Drive an older car and suddenly you're the topic of concerned whispers. Live below your means and you're either cheap or struggling financially in people's minds. The social pressure to spend is enormous. We've built entire relationships around consumption. Meeting friends means spending money. Dating requires spending money. Even hobbies that used to be free have been monetized into expensive pursuits. Try being the person who suggests free activities. See how long before people stop inviting you to things. This creates a trap within the trap. You want to escape the monthly payment cycle, but doing so might cost you your social circle. You want to avoid lifestyle inflation, but that means watching your peers upgrade their lives while you stay put. You want to stop paying the ignorance tax, but gaining that knowledge requires time and effort nobody seems to have. So most people just stay stuck, working harder each year to maintain a lifestyle that's slowly destroying their financial future. And the truly maddening part is what happens next. You finally earn enough to increase your retirement contributions, so you bump your 401k from 6% to 10%. Feels responsible, right? Except inflation just ate your last raise, your rent increased again, and that 10% is coming from money you needed for other things. Now you're further behind despite technically doing the right thing. Or maybe you decide to get serious about building wealth, so you start researching investments. Stocks, bonds, real estate, crypto, index funds, actively managed funds, target date funds. The options multiply faster than you can learn about them. Analysis paralysis sets in. You spend 6 months researching the perfect investment strategy and end up doing nothing because you're terrified of making the wrong choice. Meanwhile, people who know less than you are actually investing and building wealth simply because they started. Perfect knowledge becomes the enemy of good action. You're so busy trying to optimize that you never actually begin. This is what keeps people trapped forever. Not laziness, not stupidity, just the overwhelming complexity of a system designed to extract maximum value from your confusion and inaction. Every path forward seems to require expertise you don't have, time you can't spare, or money you've already spent. Consider what happens when you try to break free. You want to cancel subscriptions, but which ones? You use most of them occasionally. Canceling everything feels extreme, so you keep them all and promise to evaluate later. Later never comes. You want to invest seriously, but you're carrying credit card debt at 18% interest. Every financial expert says pay off high interest debt first, but your retirement account has tax advantages and compound growth. Which should you prioritize? Both answers seem equally correct and contradictory. You want to buy a house to stop throwing money away on rent, but you don't have the down payment. Saving for one means staying in an expensive rental longer. Taking on a mortgage with a small down payment means paying PMI and higher interest. Every option has a costly trade-off. The system isn't designed to be solved. It's designed to keep you perpetually behind while feeling like you're almost catching up. One more promotion, one more side hustle, one more investment that finally pays off. The finish line keeps moving at exactly the pace you're running. What's particularly cruel is how this affects different life stages. Young people can't build wealth because they're buried in student loans and paying inflated rent. Middle-aged people can't build wealth because they're supporting kids while caring for aging parents. Older people can't build wealth because they're trying to catch up on decades of undersaving while medical costs explode. There's never a perfect time. The system ensures that every life stage has its own financial crisis designed to prevent wealth accumulation. You're always fighting fires instead of building foundations. And the goalposts keep moving. Retirement used to mean a pension and Social Security. Now, you need at least $1 million saved personally, probably more like $2 million to be comfortable. The average person is supposed to accumulate this while also paying for housing, healthcare, education, and every other inflated cost we've discussed. The math doesn't work. It literally cannot work for most people. You need to save impossible percentages of your income starting impossibly young while earning impossibly consistent returns. Yet, we treat individual failure to achieve this as a personal moral failing rather than a systemic design flaw. Here's where it gets really dark. The people who escape this trap usually do so through luck, disguised as merit. They happen to buy a house before prices exploded. They happen to join a company before it went public. They happen to inherit money from relatives. They happen to avoid major medical crises or family emergencies. Sure, they made good decisions, but plenty of people make identical decisions and stay poor because timing and chance didn't align. We've built an entire culture around pretending luck doesn't exist, that wealth is purely a function of choices and effort. This lie keeps the system running by making failure feel personal rather than structural. The influencers selling you courses on financial freedom usually made their money selling courses, not following their own advice. The real estate gurus bought property during historical anomalies that won't repeat. The investment experts are showcasing survivorship bias, ignoring thousands who tried identical strategies and failed. Meanwhile, actual wealth building often looks boring and takes decades. Consistent saving, reasonable investing, avoiding catastrophic mistakes, no shortcuts, no secrets, just time and discipline most people can't maintain because life keeps interrupting with emergencies and obligations. But even understanding all this doesn't really help, does it? Knowing you're trapped in a system designed to extract wealth doesn't give you the tools to escape it. Knowledge without power is just frustration with better vocabulary. You still need housing, you still need healthcare, you still need to eat and clothe yourself and maintain relationships and occasionally experience joy. Opting out completely isn't realistic. Participating fully keeps you broke. The middle path requires constant vigilance that exhausts you. What actually works is small, unglamorous changes that nobody wants to hear about. Automating savings before you see the money, buying used instead of new, cooking instead of ordering, choosing lower cost areas to live, driving older cars, avoiding debt like it's radioactive. These aren't secrets. Everyone knows them. They're just boring and slow and require sacrificing things that make life feel worth living. That's the real trap. The system has made financial security incompatible with enjoying your present life for most people. You can be financially responsible, or you can have experiences and relationships and fun. Pick one. For a lucky few, both are possible. For most, it's a brutal trade-off that forces you to choose between your future and your present. The people selling solutions to this problem are usually the ones profiting from it. Financial advisors who charge fees on assets you don't have yet, credit counselors whose business model depends on you having debt, productivity gurus selling you systems to work harder, so you can earn more to spend more, to need to earn more. Round and round it goes. The hamster wheel has been rebranded as a ladder, but you're still running in place. So what's the point of knowing all this? What are you supposed to do with the information that you're trapped in a system specifically designed to keep you that way? Honestly, there's no satisfying answer. You can't opt out of needing money. You can't escape to the woods and live off berries. Well, you could, but then you're just trading one set of problems for another, and scurvy isn't nearly as romantic as it sounds. The best you can do is see the traps for what they are. Stop believing the monthly payment is the actual cost. Stop upgrading your lifestyle every time your income increases. Stop paying the ignorance tax by learning how this stuff actually works instead of hoping it'll all magically sort itself out. Will this make you rich? Or probably not. The system is too rigged for simple awareness to overcome it completely. But it might make you less poor. It might give you enough breathing room to make choices instead of just reacting to crises. It might let you retire before you're too old to enjoy it. Or maybe it won't. Maybe you'll do everything right and still struggle, because that's how the math works out for most people. At least you'll know why. At least you won't spend your whole life wondering what you did wrong when the game was never designed for you to win in the first place. The invisible prison is still a prison even after you can see the bars, but knowing they're there is the first step to finding the gaps between them.